Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adedugba. The top stories at this hour. Appeal Court voids sack of 25 pro-Wike Assembly lawmakers. PDP insists Ighodalo remains governorship candidate in Edo State despite court order. Labour Party tipped for historic win as voters go to polls in the UK. Details in a moment. We begin the news with Judicial Matters, where the Court of Appeal in Abuja has nullified the expulsion of Marty Namawule and 24 others from the Rivers State House of Assembly by the Rivers State High Court. A three-member panel of the appellate court held that the lower court lacked jurisdiction to grant the ex parte order. The court held that Section 272, subsection 3 of the Constitution gives the Federal High Court powers to determine whether the seat of the House of Assembly member has become vacant. According to the court, the express mention of the Federal High Court in Section 272, subsection 3 of the Constitution, automatically excludes all state high courts from having jurisdiction. The Federal High Court on Thursday morning nullified the ad hoc delegates Congress that produced the delegates that chose Ighodalo as a candidate of the PDP. In a significant ruling today, the Federal High Court in Abuja, presided over by Justice Ekwo, declared that PDP nomination processes were non-compliant with its own constitution. As a result, the court has set aside all processes leading to the Edo PDP governorship primaries held on February 22nd, 2024. The court's decision means that the PDP has no candidate for the upcoming gubernatorial election on September 21st in Edo State. Consequently, Ighodalo and the PDP will not be on the ballot for this critical election. Meanwhile, the PDP has responded by stating that the candidature of Dr. Ighodalo as the flag bearer of the party for the 2024 elections remains intact, and the judgment of the Federal High Court in Abuja did not in any way affect the candidature of Ighodalo. And to unpack this, I am joined by lawyer and the convener, Vanguard for the Independence for Judiciary, Douglas Ogbankwa. Good evening. Glad to have you join me. Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, that's fine. Let me start by asking, what's your impression of the court ruling?
I don't know what you're asking, but if you were to ask about the Rivers State judgment, I want to say that today the Nigerian judiciary have actually vindicated itself. I have been in the vanguard of calling for sanction for those judges who, who assume jurisdiction over matters in which they don't have jurisdiction over. This has been going on for years, and today our lords have stood tall to set the pace and be steering decisive for generations to follow. I want to say without any form of equivocation, that Section 272, subsection 1 of the Constitution, which I am holding right now, is actually opposite to the effects. Section 2723, it says, and I quote, subject to the provisions of Section 251 of the Constitution. Of course, you know that Section 251 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, is actually that section that donates jurisdiction to the Federal High Court, to the exclusion of any other courts. So that particular section talks about things like that the Federal High Court has exclusive jurisdiction over custom and excise, currency matters, mines, and power. Just there are quite a lot of foreign affairs, a lot of, jurisdictional threshold that they give to the Federal High Court. So that's Section 251. So it says subject to the provision of Section 251 and other provision of the Constitution, the Federal High Court shall have jurisdiction to hear and determine the question as to whether the term of office of a member of a House of Assembly of a state, or governor or deputy governor has ceased or become vacant.
Just to come in there. If I may comment that you've quoted the Constitution, I was wondering, do you see Governor Fubara appealing this court ruling? Is there a possibility for that?
I want to telepathy. I'm not in his mind. But if I do advise him as a free agent, who is supposed to pay for my advice, I would tell him that there's no need to waste his money. Because this judgment, I am very positive. Because it's clear. We lawyers, we don't manufacture laws. We actually interpret the laws that have been made by the legislature. Now, the National Assembly, in their wisdom, brought about this particular section, and as been expressly stated by the laws themselves. It said, express exclusion non-utterance, meaning the express mention of a thing is the exclusion of another. It did not say provided always. It is clear. It's exclusive to the federal court. And I want to say that the judges or any judge that has assumed jurisdiction over a matter, he knows he has no jurisdiction. But actually face the wrong National Judicial Council. Because it's getting out of hand. Judges in Kebbi State will assume jurisdiction over matters in Anambra. The other day we saw a federal high court judge assuming jurisdiction over a matter that pertains to native law and custom.
If I may come in here, Douglas. I mean, I understand you rightly, quoting a section of the Constitution, but then there's been a verdict by the Court of Law, and the court voids the sack of pro-Wike lawmakers. So where does that leave us? What's the next line of action?
When you have two conflicting court judgments, the later prevails. That is the law. If for any reason the judgment, but we have to have a community reading of the two judgments of the Court of Appeal. And it also means that only the Supreme Court can give us a final determination of this matter. As Honorable Justice Chikudufo Puta stated, of blessed memory, said, we are not final because we are infallible. We are infallible because we are final. I am very sure that the law lords in the Supreme Court, who are very, very, will I say, forward-looking. They are judges, justices rather, that I know will do justice. I'm waiting.
But okay, just to follow up on your line of thought, you mentioned the Supreme Court likely to give justice. But then, do you think the Supreme Court would act contrary or do otherwise? What new evidence or facts will they be presenting? After all, they are there to just interpret the law. Absolutely. Now, there's something many Nigerians don't know. Because of my experience in Edo State, I seem to have some kind of expertise in House of Assembly issues. Section 91 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended by the 5th Alteration, states, and I quote, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, a House of Assembly of a state shall consist of 3 or 4 times the number of seats which the state has in the House of Representatives, divided in a way to reflect as far as possible near equal proportion, provided that a House of Assembly of a state shall consist of not less than 24 and not more than 40. So 4 people, 4 friends, will I say, buying before each other. And they say they are the House of Assembly of Rivers State. That is laughable, is ridiculous, it's unacceptable. It's turning the law on his head. And I want to say that it is only in Nigeria that such an attempt can happen. Now let's talk about
the speaker, the speaker, the majority leader, the majority whip. Who are the other members? Let us be very frank in this talk.
Okay, let's take a minute. Yes. Just to bring in a different line of thought, let's take a moment to talk about the people now in Rivers State. How does this affect them? These political impasse happening, they are the ones to bear the brunt. So how does this affect the people in Rivers State?
Unfortunately, when 2 elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Because the governor of Rivers State and Governor Fubara is the one that is the de facto governor. That's the governor that has actual powers. Nothing much will be done until the Supreme Court makes a pronunciation. So we'll have to await the decision of the Supreme Court. In any case, it's obvious that affected the governance in the state. As a matter of fact, with 4 people passing a budget, you can be assured that anything can happen. They can pass anything. So in the House, I understand, is actually sitting inside the government house, which is actually against the law. Because in a very celebrated case, in the Taraba State House of Assembly, which the Honorable Justice Rose Bible gave the lead judgment, he stated that the House of Assembly of the state is not a secret court.
Let me quickly get your... Yeah, I must interject at this point. Apologies. I want to get your perspective on the court ruling regarding Asue Gudalo, who is the candidate for the PDP in the upcoming election, sub-national election in Edo State, but now he won't be on the ballot box. What does this mean for PDP in Edo State?
It means that they should wait for another 4 years if the Supreme Court affirms the judgment. It's actually an indication to our politicians that they should be very careful when they are imposing impunity, because impunity, you may take impunity too far, but there's always a day of reckoning. I want to say this is the day of reckoning for all those who are foisted on Edo State. Impunity, various kind of impunity, House of Assembly being inaugurated at 9:30 p.m. at night, 9 members of House of Assembly sitting, and now you excluded about 378 members of the delegates that even the process that produced the governorship candidates actually produced the delegates.
But what the PDP are saying, that this verdict of the court does not in any way affect the candidature of their, their person, running for office, and that's Asue Gudalo. Do you see them contending these verdicts of the court in the higher court?
This thing actually happened in Rivers State about 8 years ago. I want to tell you that APC was a victim when Toye Cole was disqualified and the heavens did not fall. It was Mike Twain that said that history does not repeat itself, at best it rhymes. So I want to tell you that as far as the law is concerned, as far as Nigeria is concerned, as far as INEC is concerned, as far as the state is concerned, PDP does not have a candidate for these elections, and that is the law.
All right.
They cannot give their own judgment.
Well, thank you so much for your perspective on the news. Douglas Ogbenkwa, convener, Vanguard for the Independence of the Judiciary. Many thanks for your insight. Noted. Thank you so much for your insight on the news. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory has given assurances that the construction of the Federal Capital Territory Court of Appeal complex will be completed by September next year. The minister gave the assurances while flagging the construction of the facility in Abuja. Idun JF tells us more.
About 27 years after the establishment of the Abuja division of the Appeal Court, the court has operated without a permanent building of its own. However, this is about to change as the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and the President of the Appeal Court laid the foundation for the construction of a permanent structure for the courts.
At times when critical appeals are determined, such as those involving political or terrorism matters, the court complex and the adjoining expressways leading to the three arms zone and the Federal Secretariat are cordoned off. The construction of the new strategically located Abuja division will undoubtedly provide significant relief.
The minister revealed that about 30 billion naira has been approved to commence the construction of the complex.
This project is going to cost us 37 billion naira. But in the budget, Mr. President has provided 30 billion naira. Thank you and God bless you.
While handing over the certificate of occupancy to the President of the Appeal Court, the minister promised to ensure delivery of the complex within 14 months. He says that plans are already in place to provide housing for judges from the Court of Appeal, the Federal High Court, and the FCT High Court.
Unlike engineers who, when they retire, can go back to their practice. And in this case, this is not available for the justices and judges. And Mr. President said, look, we have to start somewhere. And he has approved that the heads of court must have their retirement homes.
The Chief Justice of the Federation, the Minister of Justice, and the President of the Nigerian Bar Association commended the minister for his support.
We appreciate you greatly. We know you love the judiciary.
Only the lawyers have this to give, because memo that code non habet. You cannot give what you do not have.
The minister expressed the president's readiness to support the progress of the judiciary to dispense justice. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idun JF.
And now to a bit of security stories. A judge of the Upper Customary Court in Kaduna State, Janet Gimba, who was kidnapped by bandits along with her 4 children, has been released. Her husband, Musa Gimba, confirmed the judge's release, but said his wife was released without her 3 children. It is disclosed that the bandits are demanding 150 million naira ransom within 3 days, threatening to kill them if the money is not given to them. Gimba, who is attached to the Upper Customary Court, Sabontashi Division in Kaduna State, was kidnapped along with her 4 children on June 24, 2024, as their residents in the Mahuntu area of Chukun local government area in the outskirts of Kaduna metropolis. In the meantime, the spokesman of the Kaduna State Police Command, Bansir Hassan, said the assailants later killed the woman's 14-year-old eldest son, Victor Gimba. A Bayelsa High Court sitting in Ogbia Town, Ogbia local government area of the state, has sentenced 4 kidnappers to 40 years each. The 4 men kidnapped a former commissioner for trade and investment in the state, Federal Otokito, on January 20, 2022, and demanded a ransom, delivering the judgment in a suit number OHC/4C/2022 on Tuesday. The presiding judge, S.W. Adebola, declared that Kingsley Obehisi, Joshua Abi, Gift Damene, and Powell Inegite were guilty of conspiracy, kidnapping, and unlawful possession of firearms. The presiding judge declared that the investigative and prosecution team had done due diligence and proved beyond reasonable doubt the case of conspiracy, kidnapping, and unlawful possession of firearms against the convicts. The Nigerian Air Force says its air component of Operation Hadinkai has eliminated several terrorists in the aerial bombardments in their hideouts in Borno State. And this was contained in a statement by the Director, NAF Public Relations and Information, Edward Gabwet, on Thursday in Abuja. Gabwet said the hideouts located near Degbewa and Chinene in the Mandara Mountains in the state were known terrorists' hideouts. According to him, aerial surveillance over the several days had shown the regular concentration of a sizable number of terrorists in the region, making the airstrikes necessary. The location is also suspected to be a site for manufacturing improvised explosive devices and storage areas. You're live with News Central TV. Let's take a short break. Stay with us. Or staying tuned. Proch, a leading platform for financial literacy in Nigeria, launched its new book, Beyond Profit: How a Nigerian Company Built a Culture of Credibility, at a special event in Lagos. The launch was part of a wider industry event held in Lagos, highlighting Proch's commitment to fostering a more informed and credible financial landscape in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Perpetua Fasomi Peter, was there and tells us more.
The book, Beyond Profit, delves into Proch's journey to establish itself as a trusted source of financial information in the Nigerian market. Giving his remarks at the book launch, Proch's founder and chairman, Olufemi Awuyemi, described Proch as a unique fusion of data, analysis and professional services, offering valuable lessons for Nigerian companies building credibility.
There are quite a number of companies that have that credibility. But what we said to ourselves was, because we were combining about 3 elements together, it was always going to be a contradiction. So from day one, we needed to be sure that whatever was said, we can defend it. And the thing that helps you is with data. Data. In every other thing is data. So you can argue with what you feel like, but you cannot argue with the data.
While highlighting the challenges faced by Nigerian media organizations, participants implored media owners to remain committed to core journalistic principles such as objectivity and ethical reporting.
In society, when society is changing, the journalist plays a very crucial role, and that is holding people accountable, making sure that what you say, we can hold you accountable for it. But if the industry is spending time to survive, that's going to be a major problem itself.
Nigeria is not exactly the same place to keep telling the truth and going about saying you do not care whose ox it's got. Even when the 1999 Constitution grants the media are owners of information platforms, specifically under section 22 and 39 thereof. Nigerian watchdogs have had to learn the hard way that what they do every day is like walking the title, as Mr. Babajide just said, he did it times.
The highlight of the event was the unveiling of the book, Beyond Profit, How a Nigerian Company Built a Culture of Credibility.
And the Christian, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, will unveil this book for Proch's continued success.
The book launch, which was part of a two-in-one event, also featured the ProShare Bank Strength Index, which evaluated banks using a pool of financial metrics based on audited financial statements for the financial year 2023. Emerging as Tier 1 banks in the 2024 review are Access Corporation, Zenith Bank, FBN Holdings, Ecobank Transnational Incorporated, and UBA. In Lagos, for News Central, Perpetua Fasomi Peter.
Commercial activities were grounded yesterday in Lagos following a 10-hour downpour in many parts of the state. The resultant flooding grounded vehicular movement on the roads and overwhelmed hundreds of residents. Although the Lagos state government says the rain lasted for 9 hours, in some parts of the state it started at midnight and did not subside until late in the evening. Our correspondent Bettina Onweli throws more light.
Many times when people see videos of floods on social media, it's almost very hard to believe. Now, this is Bolaji Omopo Street of Shomolu, Lagos. And this time yesterday, the entire area around here was flooded with water, entering the homes of people, destroying their valuables, and even affecting the businesses of some of the people that live in this area.
Residents of Bolaji Omopo Street in Shomolu went to bed with everything normal, only to be woken up in a pool of water in their various apartments. Valuables and personal effects were damaged, and in some cases, lost owing to the volume of Wednesday's floods.
Yesterday the water was so much, they spoiled many things, bed, the chairs, including television, everything. Because we didn't expect this, that rain would spoil everything now inside. This is the first time. I just got said, not like January 1st. This is the first time of experience. Primary 6 child yesterday, the water carried up from that canal side.
Òjò àná tó rọ̀ lánàá yẹn pọ̀ tí ò dẹ̀ ṣẹlẹ̀ rí ní street. Ó pọ̀ gidi gan ni tó jẹ́ pé ó wọ ilé everybody ní street. So kí wọ́n jọ àrò wọn ni kán bá wa wá nǹkan kan ṣe sí. Ó wà fẹ́ tí ọjà ó gbé ata lọ báàfù tí mo fi ń ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ lóru lọ. So kò dẹ̀ sí nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ṣe ṣe àti gbà fọ́lọ́run nísìnyí.
Yes, at about 4:30 a.m. I witnessed that there was a torrential downpour of rain. And before we could know it, from the bedroom, from the parlor, everywhere, there was surging of water coming inside the building, inside the house. Our properties were damaged. Boxes, fridge, shoes, traveling bags, containing documents and books. As you can see outside there. Since I packed, this is the first time I'm witnessing it.
According to a statement by the Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Tokunbo Wahab, Lagos experienced about 9 hours of non-stop rainfall since the early hours of Wednesday, coupled with heavy rainfall which the state had been experiencing daily since last week, resulting in the rise of the Lagos Lagoon. However, experts argue that environmental issues which go beyond the volume of the rain abound.
There's been this argument all the time, does Lagos have a wetland policy, a wetland protection policy? And somebody says, oh, we have. Where is the action that is being taken to preserve these areas, to channel water into these places? There are buildings that are springing up. If they are not directly on the wetland, they are actually causing an obstruction for water to flow into those places. Design-wise, what can we do?
Although the government has been on top of the situation with the clearing of some flooded areas and canals, an earlier approach would have tackled this menace. Residents are advised to desist from wading through floods with their vehicles as they could be swept away, irrespective of the number of occupants. Residents are further advised to avail themselves of daily weather reports issued by the State Ministry of the Environment and Water Resources, as it serves as a guide to daily itineraries. In Lagos, for News Central, Bettina Nweli.
Coming up, Nigerian Army says more than 100 terrorists killed. We have details shortly. Join us again. Thank you for staying tuned. The news continues in West Africa, where Nigeria's army says it has killed more than 100 terrorists during air and ground operations in response to deadly attacks against soldiers. The toll marked a sharp rise from the initial figure reported by the army in a region plagued for several years by religious and ethnic tensions. Recall that the attacks, which started in the Bokos area, spilled into neighboring Barikan Ladi, where 30 people were found dead, according to local chairman Danjuma Dakel. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, at war with Sudan's regular army over a year, says it has captured a key base near the border with South Sudan. The RSF, which has been accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing, is already in effective control of Sudan's borders with Chad, the Central African Republic and Libya. The army is yet to comment on the claimed capture of the base, which lies in an oil-field district close to the disputed Abyei region of the border. In May, the United Nations called on South Sudan to withdraw air forces from Abyei, a warning of rising tensions in the region, which has peacekeepers deployed. In Central Africa, China confirmed on Thursday that an armed attack in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, left several of the citizens dead or missing. Now, local sources told the press on Wednesday that a militia attack on the mining site in a gold-rich Ituri province killed at least 4 Chinese nationals, was attributed to the incident, which claims to defend the interest of the Lendu tribe against the rival Hema tribe. China Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said at a regular press conference that China expresses its strong condemnation of this attack and demands that the DRC side hunts down the killers as quickly as possible and strictly punishes them in accordance with the law.
3日，一家在刚果金的中资民营企业遭到武装袭击，造成数名中国公民死亡、失踪。中方对袭击事件表示强烈谴责，正与刚果金方面保持密切沟通，全力搜寻失踪的中国公民。我们要求刚果金方面尽快追捕并依法严惩凶手，采取切实有效措施，加强对在当地的中国公民和企业的安全保护。刚果金东北部地区长期安全形势严峻，外交部已经多次发布安全提醒。 我们再次提醒中国公民密切关注、高度重视外交部的安全提醒，不要前往高风险地区，已在高风险地区的人员尽快撤离。
Britain voted on Thursday in a general election expected to hand the opposition Labour Party a landslide win and end nearly a decade and a half of Conservative rule. The first national ballot since Boris Johnson won the Tories' decisive victory in 2019 follows Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's surprise call to hold it 6 months earlier than required. His gamble looks set to backfire spectacularly, with polls throughout the 6-week campaign and for the last 2 years pointing to a heavy defeat for his right-wing party. Meanwhile, Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has cast his vote at a London polling station. Earlier, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak voted in the Yorkshire constituency just half an hour after polls opened. And for more on this, I am joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, we understand voting commenced around 7 a.m. Just keep us abreast. What's the atmosphere like in the UK with elections underway?
That's right. Voting kicked off at 7 a.m. this morning. Polls are closing in under 4 hours, about 3.5 hours from now. The polls will close at 10 p.m. At the polling station that I am at in East London, it has been a really busy day. Lots of people going in and out. And when I've been out and about speaking to people this week, there has been a little bit of an air of voter apathy. But at the same time, lots of people talking about change and wanting change and needing change. And so people that I've seen at polling stations today who have been out and voting, that has been what they have been voting for a change. From the people I have spoken to, it looks like those predictions could be true, and we will see that Labour, perhaps that supermajority, this time tomorrow.
I mean, from talks we've seen around and reports we've seen, it seems the people are a lot more endeared to the Labour Party. What's working in favor of the Labour Party candidate, Keir Starmer?
You're right in saying lots of people are much more endeared to the Labour Party. When it comes to Sir Keir Starmer, he is seen in a somewhat a safe pair of hands. But on the other hand, he's also been described as being a bit boring and has run a boring Labour election campaign over this past 6 weeks. But like I said, people just want something different, right? They want something different from the Conservatives, from Boris Johnson, from Liz Truss, from Rishi Sunak, our current Prime Minister. And Sir Keir Starmer is the most viable alternative. Now, a lot of people have also been saying that he is perhaps the best of a bad bunch, the same kind of lines that we're getting about the US election later on this year. But Sir Keir Starmer isn't necessarily their first pick, but he's a better option than the current government than people have right now. And that is to his benefit. That is what's going in his favour, that he isn't Rishi Sunak.
Well, with Keir Starmer being the new bride, I mean, his stance on the war in Gaza and also his support for Israel, has it hurt his image? And even as Britons may be ready to move on from the current government after over a decade in power, what do you make of his perspective or how people perceive him regarding the war in Gaza?
Absolutely. Keir Starmer, or Sir Keir Starmer, as I should address him to give him his proper title, his stance on the Israel-Gaza war is one that is not typical to the Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party have been accused of anti-Semitism in the past, so he has made sure that that has not happened. When it comes to the Israel-Gaza war, he's been quite strong in his support for Israel, and not so strong in his support for Palestine and the Palestinian people, and that has been disappointing for a lot of people. For a lot of people who see the Labour Party as traditionally on the left of politics and traditionally socialist, and therefore would support Palestine and would support the Palestinian people and their right to have a state. Now, his support for Israel in the Israel-Gaza war, I think, definitely has hurt his reputation, and it will cost him votes in this election. It doesn't mean that the Labour Party won't win. I'm absolutely sure that they will, but perhaps that majority would have been bigger, could have been bigger, had he taken a different stance over the Israel-Gaza war.
Now, let's talk about the manifesto, for the Labour Party. I mean, will Keir Starmer's manifesto lead the UK to a better economy, reversing 15 years of regression and also stagnant income growth? What do you make of that, Hafia?
That's what everybody wants, right? Everybody wants a Labour Party that's going to bring about change. But when you look at the Conservative Party and the Labour Party manifestos, to be honest, there's not too much in them. When you look at the major issues like immigration, for instance, the Conservative Party, who are in government at the moment, have that policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. The Labour Party will not support that policy, do not support that policy, and will not have that policy in place. When it comes to the National Health Service, you have a Labour Party who are willing to sit down with doctors and nurses and doctors who have been on strike and have been on strike quite recently here in the UK to talk to them about their pay demands, something that the Conservative government wasn't open to doing. We could see those talks happen as early as tomorrow or even Monday. When it comes to the cost of living crisis as well, that's a huge thing. Now, the Conservative government have insisted repeatedly that the Labour Party and a Labour government will raise taxes. Now, the Labour Party haven't denied this. It could be something that we see happening, but they have promised to turbo boost the economy. Now, how exactly they're going to do that, we haven't been privy to those details quite yet, but it's something that everybody hopes for. The cost of living crisis has been a huge issue for voters as they've gone to the ballot box. There's not one person in the UK that hasn't been affected by that. So that is something that's at the top of people's minds and something that the Labour Party will have to get hold of in their first 100 days in Parliament.
Well, we understand polls would end, voting would come to a close at 10 p.m. Fingers crossed, we'll see how things pan out and who eventually becomes the winner. Thank you so much, Afia Hagen, our international correspondent, for your insight on this. Democratic governors have offered their continued support for U.S. President Joe Biden in a meeting with him to discuss the fallout from his disastrous debate performance. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said that they would stand with him after the meeting at the White House, with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz adding that 81-year-old Biden, whose debate performance has provoked calls for him to drop out of the White House race, was fit for office.
I'm here to tell you today, President Joe Biden is in it to win it. And all of us said we pledged our support to him because the stakes could not be higher.
Yes, fit for office. The president has three and a half years of delivering for us, going through what we've all been through. None of us are denying. Thursday night was a bad performance. It was a bad hit, if you will, on that. But it doesn't impact what I believe. He's delivering.
We feel very confident in his abilities. We talked about the plan and how he's going to be very focused on issues that matter to Americans, and I felt very confident coming out of this meeting as well.
In business, Nigeria's government has approved a new withholding tax regime, bringing key changes to the previous system. The revised regime includes measures such as exemptions for small businesses, reduced tax rate for companies with low margins, and exemptions for manufacturers and producers. The official gazette for the new regime is expected to be signed soon, marking a significant milestone in Nigeria's tax reforms. Yomi Olugbenro, partner and West Africa tax leader at Deloitte, shared his insight on this development during a Business Edge show. In line with Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu's agenda of powering grassroots sport development through schools, the Lagos State government, through its Lagos State Sports Trust Fund, has distributed much-needed sport equipment to schools across the state. At a press conference on Thursday, 4th of July 2024, at the Secretariat in Alausa, Ikeja, LSSTF distributed sport equipment to 644 public secondary schools, state technical colleges, and 5 tertiary institutions across the state ahead of the inter-school games later this year. Some of the equipment includes footballs, table tennis, tables and bats, judo mat, running spikes, cricket helmets and bats, boxing gloves, and first aid boxes. According to Olakwosi Ogunbiade, Executive Secretary and CEO of LSSF-TF, the move is just a start of greater emphasis on sports development by the Lagos State government.
Everything starts with one step. In the speech I delivered on behalf of Mr. Governor, if you remember, I said we have just completed some facilities. We've completed 5 outdoor sporting facilities. We've completed the swimming pool at Roe Park, which is going to be commissioned soon. These are some of the projects the STF has recently completed. Yes, there's a lot of expectations, but we need to take them in orders of priority. The equipments are also as important as those facilities, right? Because without the equipment, you cannot train at those facilities. So we started from this. We have taken it. We are aware that we need to complete. We need legacy infrastructural projects. As you are aware, across Lagos State, some of our stadiums are being constructed. Some are almost done. Some are just being started. But it is a priority of the government to ensure that all of these projects will see a conclusion.
The Super Eagles have been drawn against familiar foes, the Benin Republic, in the qualification race for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON. In the draw ceremony held in Johannesburg, South Africa on Thursday, Nigeria will also play the Mediterranean Knights of Libya and the Amavubu Stars of Rwanda. Benin and Rwanda are also drawn in the same Group C alongside the Super Eagles in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying race. The Squirrels of Benin Republic, who were managed by former Nigerian head coach Gernot Rohr, defeated the Super Eagles 2-1 in the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers last month. The qualifiers for the 2025 AFCON will begin in September and end in November 2025. The tournament itself will hold between December 21st, 2025 and January 18th, 2026. The national women's football team, the Super Falcons, have suffered a major setback just 24 hours after the squad list for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games was released. Rosengard midfielder Halima Tu has been ruled out of the Olympics due to injury, ending her long-term pursuit of an Olympic dream. The 3-time African Women's Cup of Nations winner suffered a knee injury ahead of her arrival in camp, and her Norwegian club has confirmed that she won't be joining the national team. The Kaduna-born star recently returned from injury after the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. Now, Wardrum expected to replace Ayinde with one of the alternate players in the squad. They are Jumoke Alani, Ifoma Onomonu, Gift Monday, and Morufat Adebola. And that's all on the news. But before we go, let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Appeal Court voids sack of 25 pro-Wike Assembly lawmakers. PDP insists Ighodalo remains governorship candidate in Edo State despite court order. Labour Party tipped for historic win as voters go to polls in the UK. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adedugba.